The reason for Han Li's recovery in the mid-stage of cultivation. I want to see my old friend, Cao Mengrong. This is the beautiful second miss who once saved Han Li. She will fit the current situation of Han Li. In order to obtain the materials for refining, one of the materials is the long limb of the Hao Yang bird. She made a fierce visit to the Yu Yang palace, almost plucked the Hao Yang bird's tail clean. Unexpectedly, this led to the old ancestor hunting down the reason later. Heh, Taoist son, you came quite quickly. Unfortunately, you found the wrong person. I was chasing after a monster beast. The finance came to sell at Gishan. I also witnessed the commotion of the low-level monster beast just now. I also want to find out who this masked person is. Chuckling a few times, cautiously said, HMPH. Chasing after the monster beast. Taoist Ma, do you think I'm confused? You are Yuan Ying. In the mid-stage of cultivation, you are famous for your escape techniques. How could any monster beast come to our Tianyu mountain range? Besides, I have searched the area for hundreds of miles. Aside from you, Taoist, I really haven't found anyone else. Anyone capable of doing this. The old jade face of the cultivator showed a layer of purple light. He said coldly, what happened? Could it be that the monster beast commotion just now? What loss did the Yu Yang palace suffer? I respect you for that reason. It's only polite to be so courteous in the later stages. But if you, my friend, are framing me, it won't work, although I'm not your match. The sect knows well. There are more than just one or two disciples from the Tianyu mountain range. Moreover, if Ma were to fight to the death, I wouldn't be without the strength to fight back. Unless you intend to provoke the demon suppression war again. The masked figure's eyes sparkled with golden light, contrasting sharply with the previous fear. They seemed to become somewhat assertive. Seeing the masked figure's actions, Lao Yu narrowed his eyes slightly. It really wasn't you who did this. After pretending to be foolish, he asked coldly, if you, Taoist son, feel the need for Ma, you can swear to the heart demon. I, from just now until now, truly have no idea what happened to your esteemed lord. Upon hearing this, the masked figure relaxed in their heart, and also lowered their stance a bit, showing a willingness to be flexible. There's no need for you to swear any oaths. It should really not be as you say. Given your status in your sect, you surely wouldn't do that. Given your status in the sect, I doubt you would do that. This is quite beneath one's dignity. Besides, I've never heard of it before. The ability to summon a beast, as you do, is quite remarkable. But to come all the way to our Tianyuan mountain for just one beast, that beast must be something special. Right. Could you enlighten me a bit? Old Yu's expression softened. His tone became a bit more polite. This beast is indeed quite rare. For someone like Ma, its importance might rival that of your esteemed bird-raising endeavors. It's a newly advanced level 7 earth armored dragon. I discovered it in the neighboring city of Huangli Mountain. But this little fellow is quite clever, and is also skilled in earth evasion techniques. I chased it for 6 days and nights before finally catching up to it here. That's why I didn't have the chance to greet you properly. I just barged in. Even with a mask, I know that without revealing some details, I can't truly dispel your suspicions. So let me straightforwardly share the situation regarding the beast I was pursuing. A level 7 earth armored dragon. Now that's a truly rare beast. I've never heard of one so high level before. No wonder Ma is so eager. It seems you're about to leave now. Have you already succeeded? I've only heard of the name of the armored dragon, but I've never actually seen one in person. I've never truly seen a Tujialong before. Can you let this old lady have a look? Old Yu, surprised, became interested. This might disappoint you, Taoist Ma. Just a moment ago, when the beast stirred, my secretary suddenly malfunctioned. I lost track of the beast because of that. But what? In the old tomb, a flash of golden light appeared. However, while searching for the beast, I suddenly saw a flash of red and blue streak across the sky. It was very fast, but it didn't seem like a noble's embellishment. I estimate it was just a moment ago in the mountains. It should be related to this person. That's when I thought to chase after them. I wanted to see who this remarkable person was. Unfortunately, this person's shield was too fast. I only chased for a moment, and they slipped away without a trace. At that moment, I was stopped by Taoist-san. The masked figure let out a bitter smile. Feeling somewhat helpless, they were startled. So, this person, just left not long ago. They escaped towards the river. Old Yu's expression changed. She couldn't help but ask about the direction outside the mountains. With your abilities, Taoist friend, you might still catch up to this person. The masked figure's eyes moved a few times. Calmly, they said, "Thank you for the reminder, Taoist Ma. I'll go check on that earth-armored dragon now. Since they're missing, it's best for you to leave this mountain range. Our families have different ways of sealing demons. This isn't your esteemed sect's sacred tree cliff. I hope when I return, I won't see you still lingering in the mountains." The prison has obtained the clues it wanted, and immediately spoke the words of expulsion. Then, without saying much more, the masked figure suddenly transformed into a stunning flash, shooting out towards the mountain's edge. Humph, that old hag is indeed as tough as the rumors say. Not easy to deal with. She turned hostile the moment she got the news. What's so different about this? Isn't it just because she has her eyes on the earth-armored dragon, wanting to claim it for herself? Heh, if I'm not mistaken, the disappearance of that earth-armored dragon should also be related to King Hong. That flash of light was no less than the reason. Trying to catch up to that person later on is not an easy task at all. Looking at how frantic he was when he arrived, it seems that person caused Yuyang Palace to suffer a huge loss. Now that's something to feel relieved about. After the masked figure vanished in a flash of golden light, he coldly chuckled to himself for a moment. Then he slightly waved his hand. His gaze fell on a spirit beast pendant at his waist. After taking a turn, a hint of joy unexpectedly appeared in his eyes. He did catch a black blood spider, so the trip wasn't a waste after all. That armored dragon ended up being a bargain for that guy. I wonder what method he used to make the beast go so wild. The masked figure revealed a hint of a smug expression, before quickly returning to a serious demeanor. No, this person has a plan. Having a powerful beast is no small matter. I need to hurry back and tell Brother Mu about this. The masked figure suddenly raised his hand, muttering something under his breath. After looking around, he was enveloped in a green light, and transformed into a streak of green and red, disappearing into the sky. Meanwhile, the old man's son flew for nearly half a day straight, scanning the surrounding tens of thousands of miles with his divine stone, but found no suspicious individuals. So he had no choice but to return to the Yuyang Palace. He then sternly instructed his disciples to keep this matter confidential. Otherwise, if the other major sects found out, it would surely become a laughingstock for the entire cultivation world of the Great Jin. Fortunately, he only took control of the Hao Yang bird, and just took away the fire spirit. The spirit bird hasn't been killed for the bounty. As long as this bird is given more elixirs, it can regain its vitality in just a few decades. So this is a silent loss. Old Ju can only keep his frustration bottled up. But beneath the temple, he sent a small elite group of disciples to secretly inquire if there are any major forces or old monsters above the Yuanying level that need treasures refined. He wants to trace the source of the problem. He needs to find this person, not only because he's furious about the spirit bird's history, but also to spy on their methods of attracting demonic beasts. If he can master this technique, whether it's for killing demons or taming spirit beasts, it will become significantly easier. Of course, Old Ju isn't the only one with this idea. Almost simultaneously, the Momu sect, which was named around the same time as the Yuyang Palace, also secretly dispatched many disciples to investigate everywhere. They are checking if there are any unfamiliar faces appearing in Longzhou recently. The covert actions of the two major forces in Longzhou have made some families and sects who consider themselves sharp-eyed feel uneasy. They are all speculating in secret. Is the balance in Longzhou finally going to be broken? Are Yuyang Palace and Momu sect about to go to war? All the small factions are feeling anxious. The alliances are shrinking. The atmosphere in the entire Longzhou County has suddenly become tense. Hanli naturally doesn't know that her actions have stirred up so much trouble. At this moment, he is in the belly of an unnamed desolate mountain, inside a stone chamber that was just carved out. He is examining the spoils in his hand, 5 dreamlike flame Long Lin, while chatting with the big-eyed god. The old woman who chased after him should be that prominent figure from Yuyang Palace. Her cultivation is indeed impressive. However, her divine stone is just ordinary. If she had discovered your true identity, you would have been in big trouble. The big-eyed god seems to be in a good mood, teasing Hanli in a light-hearted tone. Hey, if it comes to it, I can just use the blood shadow shield again. I don't believe there's another one of its kind in this world. The last time, I just happened to run into the holy beast's avatar, but I had no choice in that matter. That old jade must have mastered the art of escape. It's still a bit lacking compared to the other party. We can only hide for now. Han Li chuckled and said, "That's true. However, this trip does carry some risks, but the rewards are still quite good. Not only did we get so much fire essence, but we also managed to acquire a rare to Jialong. If we can tame it, in the future, searching for rare treasures will be very promising." The big-eyed deity said with satisfaction. "That's not wrong, but adult demon beasts can't recognize a master. It's not that easy to tame them. Whether it will succeed depends on luck." Han Li was also delighted in her heart, but she knew it wouldn't be easy. It's okay. Taming adult demon beasts isn't actually as difficult as imagined, especially if the demon beast has higher intelligence. The easier it is to submit. Playing the fool, but seems to have experience in this area, casually said, "Oh, is that so? Such things do happen." Han Li raised an eyebrow. A hint of surprise appeared on her face. "You'll find out in the future. I can see that this slaughter dragon has quite a high level of intelligence. It shouldn't be too difficult to tame." "Let's hope so. But first, let's temper this beast's temperament. We can discuss this matter in more detail later. Right now, I need to handle these fire bells briefly. Then I'll head to the auction in the capital. I want to see what this so-called first city of great progress is really like." Han Li said thoughtfully, "I went to the capital once back in the day. Although it was just a city of mortals, it was truly extraordinary. The atmosphere was remarkable. But hearing the elders praise, Jun couldn't help but feel curious. The younger generation is even more intrigued now. Fortunately, it's not too far from here to the capital. Give me a day to get everything ready, and I'll set off immediately. 3 months is more than enough time," Han Li said calmly. Then, with a flash of light in her hand, she stopped and took out a fire bell. The rest vanished without a trace. She tossed the fire bell into the air, and as she opened her mouth, a bluish light illuminated the bell, igniting the fiery red flames within. Instantly, the bell glowed blue on the outside and red on the inside. The spiritual light flickered, but it wasn't overly flashy, a flash of inspiration. Not at all flashy, and Han Li sat cross-legged with her eyes closed. She formed a hand seal. She entered a meditative state. After a day and a night, Han Li emerged from her meditation. She left the mountain's interior and headed straight for the central part of the Great Jin. This was the first major city of the mortal world, located right there. Since it was still early, Han Li, to avoid attracting attention, simply used a regular lodging for the night. Calmly, she traveled eastward. Soon after, Han Li successfully exited Longzhou and entered Qiangling County. Only then did she take out the wine chariot. With a burst of speed, it transformed into a ball of white light, breaking free and departing. With Han Li's unique aura and refined presence, she occasionally encountered some low-level cultivators along the way. Each one showed great respect, keeping their distance. A Yuanying-level cultivator was considered an ordinary presence in the Great Jin, someone to be looked up to from afar. Naturally, they wouldn't dare show any disrespect. Over a month later, she arrived at the Jinjiang County near the capital. Han Li stowed away the wine chariot, filled her shield with energy, and at the same time, his breath was restrained to a level of concentration. He moved slowly. After all, he had entered the heart of the great territory. There must be quite a few high-level cultivators around. He didn't want to draw too much attention. In just over 10 days, he would be near the outskirts of the capital. An old horse with a burnt yellow coat was pulling a dilapidated two-wheeled cart. It was moving steadily along the path. In front of the cart sat a scholarly young man. He had an ordinary appearance. It was Han Li. At this moment, he was sitting at the front of the cart, his body swaying slightly. His eyes were half closed, looking as if he was in a daze. In reality, however, he was secretly refining a blood-breaking pill he had taken days ago. Speaking of which, since he came out from that spatial rift, he had consumed quite a few of these pills that could enhance his ice power. He had taken more than 10 of them. This pill truly deserved to be called a divine pill from ancient times. He could clearly feel within him that the cold energy he had refined from the previous Lambin banquet and the six-winged double bow had become even more pure. In the purple fire of heaven, there remained a trace of impurities that couldn't be refined. In the purple sky fire, a trace of impurities that cannot be refined remains. Gradually, it also merges and disappears. This significantly increases the power of the cold air. The only troublesome thing is, these elixirs are not easy to refine, but they need to be taken with an interval of almost 3 to 4 months. This leaves Han Li feeling a bit helpless. Otherwise, if he were to take one every month, it's estimated that this purple skyfire would reach a terrifying level in just over 100 years. Who knows, it might even be cultivated to the legendary realm of freezing 1,000 miles. However, if it continues like this, the purple sky fire would certainly not be inferior to any top divine abilities of both the righteous and demonic paths. Almost no other cultivation methods have truly restrained it. As for Han Li, the reason he hurriedly brought this carriage here is because entering the capital as a mortal, in the Great Jin's cultivation world, there is an unwritten rule. Within 1,000 miles of entering the capital, fighting and flying are strictly prohibited. This shows a bit of respect from the cultivators to the Great Jin's government. In the Great Jin, cultivators and mortals are, to some extent, interdependent. However, this rule only applies to those first-tier cultivators. The reason, in a way, they are also mutually dependent. However, this rule only applies to those first-tier cultivators. The reason is, even the cultivators of the Shield Law, who consider themselves highly skilled, are often ignored by many. After all, those responsible for patrolling the outskirts of the capital are mostly scattered cultivators hired by the government. Their cultivation levels are generally not very high, as long as they aren't discovered, or if they don't fly low and boldly when entering the capital, they can get by just fine. Han Li also thought little of this, but since he had plenty of time, and wanted to refine this blood-breaking pill on the way, he set off after dropping his escape light. Several hundred miles away, he casually bought an old horse in a small town, and set off on his journey. Along the way, Han Li encountered some honest cultivators riding horses, or taking carriages. However, Han Li didn't want to attract attention, so he concealed his magic power, appearing just like an ordinary person. Naturally, these low-level cultivators couldn't see through him at all, and no one bothered Han Li. Since Han Li's carriage wasn't moving quickly, there were already 7 or 8 groups of travelers that had passed by on this road. Han Li, meanwhile, rode quietly, now feeling a trace of medicinal power in his dantian. Han Li remained calm and mounted his steed. He is currently feeling a slight medicinal power in his dantian, a cool sensation gradually dispersing into the body's meridians. Just as I felt my heart calm like still water, suddenly, my brows furrowed. Then, on the wide road behind the carriage, a sudden sound erupted, a series of thunderous hoofbeats like a raging storm. Han Li's expression remained unchanged, but her eyes opened wide. She casually pulled on the reins in her hand. The old horse immediately obediently moved aside, allowing the carriage to pull to the side of the path. Han Li glanced back at Lazy Sheep, only to see a yellow dragon rolling in from behind, its energy surging, as if thousands of troops were charging towards here. A hint of surprise appeared on Han Li's face. The yellow dragon quickly approached Han Li's side. A pair of silver-helmeted, silver-armored knights with swords hanging at their backs flickered in and out of view, gradually becoming clearer. Each of these knights was robust and fierce. Leading them was a middle-aged man, dressed in a brocade robe, riding a black stallion, with a common gold flag on his waist, bearing a large character for king. Among the knights, there were also several jade carriages pulled by fine horses, rushing along with the group. This carriage shimmered with a faint spiritual light, running like this, but the vehicle didn't shake at all, as if it were weightless. When Han Li saw the vehicle, a flicker of the Arthur Divine Stone flashed in his eyes. The other vehicles were fine. They seemed to be piled with some dead things. Only one vehicle faintly revealed a refined aura. Although the aura seemed very weak, it was surprising that ordinary cultivators were mixed in with these military personnel. It was quite unexpected. Han Li pulled the reins and simply stopped the vehicle by the roadside to let these military personnel go ahead first. This group of knights should have around 300 to 400 people, but as they passed by, it felt like a massive wind had swept through. With an astonishing momentum, Han Li's gaze flickered a few times. These knights all had a fierce presence, as if they embodied the essence of brave warriors. This was no ordinary city defense force. The Daoxiang often participated in bloody battles. He had heard of the number of whips used in their armor. Although the main road was incredibly vast, it bordered the southeastern and northwestern edges, and some outlying areas. Alongside the indigenous people there, battles among mortals happened frequently. Only in such chaotic places can true iron-blooded military skills be forged. Standing in formation are 4 vehicles. A jade-green carriage passes by. A gaze flashes through the crack of the window. It just so happens to catch a glimpse of Han Li beside it. Immediately, a clear voice rings out from within the carriage. Han Li seems to sense something. She can't help but raise her hand to look. A pair of familiar bright eyes sweeps past the window. Her heart stirs slightly. Before she can recall who it is, the pair of knights has already moved on, staring at the departing procession. Han Li's eyes well up with tears. In the end, she shakes her head. She gives up on the idea of probing deeper into the carriage with the divine stone. It's not that Han Li is too lazy to do so. It's just that those few carriages only have some simple isolation barriers. If she wants to find out the truth, she can't avoid being noticed by the people inside. And those inside are at the chair-refining stage. Han Li doesn't want to stir up trouble over some low-level cultivators. After watching the knights leave, Han Li resumes driving her carriage forward. Han Li then urged the carriage forward again. After walking just over 10 miles this time, a few winding paths appeared ahead, at a junction with 3 connecting roads. There was also a large area of lush green woods by the roadside. A few simple tea stalls were connected together, built at the edge of the forest. Many carriages were parked outside the tea stalls. The owners went inside these humble places to drink water. After all, this was almost the only resting place in this direction for those heading to the capital. Most travelers would take a moment to rest here. Han Ning casually glanced around and saw those silver-armored knights dismounting as well, resting by the edge of the forest. A few carriages were also parked there, but one of them was currently half open. It looked empty inside, and that middle-aged man in the brocade robe was also not among the knights. Han Ni frowned slightly, glancing briefly at those tea stalls, then, without showing any emotion, urged the horses to continue on through the junction. But just then, one of the knights stepped forward, suddenly blocking the way as he spotted Han Li's carriage. Han Li was momentarily taken aback. This young man is actually surnamed Han. This young man must be surnamed Han. The knight approached Han Li with dignity during the ceremony. He spoke neither humbly nor arrogantly. Indeed, I am the one you seek. Do you have business with me, sir? Han Li's expression shifted. He slowly replied, since you are truly young Master Han, then I must have found the right person. My lady requests your presence at the tea house. Well, all right then. I'll head over right away. Han Li's expression changed. He recalled the couple he had seen in the carriage earlier. After a brief pause, he finally nodded and said. He then jumped down from the carriage. Just follow me, young master, the knight said in a deep voice, and waved to Lin. Immediately, 2 other knights came over to help Han Li with the carriage. Han Li then followed this person toward one of the tea houses. Moments later, Han Li appeared in front of 2 women and a man in the tea house. The man was, of course, the middle-aged gentleman in a brocade robe, with a commanding presence. He looked imposing without being angry. The other 2 women were both in their prime, and they are both cultivators. One is at the 77th level of chair refinement. The other seems to be at the 75th level. After several years apart, I never expected to meet again. I still remember the guidance you gave my little sister back then. Mengrong will never forget it. It's rare to be so steady and unmovable. The other 2 women stood up as Han Li walked in. They all rose to greet her. Among them, the woman with lower cultivation bit her lip and said. A hint of joy appeared on her beautiful face. It turns out to be Miss Cao. What a coincidence. I left without saying goodbye back then. I hope you won't hold it against me, Taoist Cao. Han also smiled and replied. This woman is actually the one he met years ago when he first started out. The one who offered her assistance, Cao Mengrong. Back then, Brother Han must have had important matters to attend to. How could Mengrong hold any grudges? By the way, let me introduce you. This is Sister Wang. Back when I was at Zuman, she took great care of me, like a sister. This is Sister Wang's uncle. He has always been stationed in the southern border of the Great Jin. He is the renowned general stationed in the south. This time, he was ordered to return to meet the marriage. At this moment, Cao Mengrong began to introduce Han Li to a middle-aged man and another young woman with a peach blossom-like face. The general stationed in the south. It turns out that he is one of the famous 8 generals of the Great Jin. Han felt utterly overwhelmed, hearing that the beautiful woman was senior sister Cao Mengrong. Han Li merely nodded politely, but upon learning of the impressive man's identity, her expression couldn't help but show a hint of emotion. Although she knew very little about the Great Jin court, she was aware of some of the most renowned officials in Dine County. She still knew a thing or two about them. The 8 great generals. This almost represents the majority of the military power that the Great Jin court can control. Each person commands an army of 1,000,000 fierce warriors. They guard some border cities. However, Han Li knows that the names of these 8 generals are not matters of concern for the mortal world. Instead, it is said that among these 8 great generals, apart from 2 or 3 who are trusted confidants of the royal family, the rest are somewhat related to several major forces in the cultivation world. In fact, a few of them were directly supported by these forces. Even the Great Jin royal family cannot easily move against them. Since this general stationed in the south is not of royal blood, he must also be connected to a certain force. I heard from Mengrong that you are also a cultivator. How could a mere mortal dare to act arrogantly in front of you? The middle-aged man chuckled, cupping his hands towards Han Li and calmly said. Han Li naturally understood that the other party was just being polite. Given his status, perhaps he was not able to get close to the reasons behind certain matters. However, it was not difficult to attract attention with his cultivation level. The level he previously displayed to Cao Mengrong was merely at the chair refining stage, dealing with someone of his minor cultivation level. In the other person's shoes, maybe there are a few reasons. The embellishments are still not widely accessible, but the Jiden's 7 embellishments are not hard to attract, and the skills he previously showed to Cao Mengrong were just at the Chet training level. To deal with someone like him, a minor embellishment, you're being so polite. This person is truly extraordinary. But this person is leading the team into the capital. Why is there no high-level cultivator accompanying them? That's quite a bold move. Thinking this to himself, Han Li humbly replied, I don't deserve such praise. General Wang, you're too kind. Your reputation as a general is something we've all heard of, even during our downtime. Han said, I heard you once guided junior sister Cao in her cultivation for a while. As a result, she managed to advance to levels in just a few short years. When my master found out, everyone keeps praising that the junior sister's opportunity has arrived. They even say that having a modest demeanor is quite likely. They've concealed their true level of cultivation. Same tier enhancements. It's absolutely impossible to achieve such incredible feats. Nowadays, there's no spiritual energy at all in Taoist Han. Clearly, they are well versed in the art of compassion. It seems my master wasn't wrong after all. Miss Wang smiled knowingly. With great significance, she said, it's truly so shy. What exactly is your level of cultivation? Cao Mengrong also came back to reality from the joy of seeing Han Li. After carefully observing Han Li, they couldn't sense any fluctuations of magical power. A look of confusion appeared on their face. His face showed a hint of admiration.